as you might have seen in the last lesson, we talked about the sampler. All the drum machine is actually a sampler. Now, drum machines can be synthesizers too, but the mostly used common ones today are actually samplers. And how do they work? Well, let's start from this standard one that we have in Ableton. So we have a drum rack, as it is called, and it's actually a collection of simplers. You know, those simple samplers we talked about? So it's a collection of simplers, and once we drop any samples in there, let's say a kick drum and a clap. So you see, in a drum machine, all of the modern ones now have fields like this, where each field is already mapped out to a certain note on your keyboard. And once you drop a sample on that field, you can trigger that sample by just using that keyboard note as D1 right there. So D, and then. So it's a collection of samplers all rolled up into one. So now each note on my keyboard actually triggers one but a different sample instead of changing the pitch to one sample loaded. Now I can load many more of these into different fields and then just trigger them by using different notes. So shakers, let's say different percussion elements, like this. And we can actually make a beat within this drum machine, even mix that beat, even process that beat by, let's say, adding audio effects, as you remember, like that. So now, on top of this synth percussion, I have an EQ, which I can use to modify only this synthesizer percussion in this field. So Ableton being modular like this really helps us so that we can make a really complex drum machine in which all of the drums are actually produced and all of our beats are pre-produced for us. So I can make a nice drum kit right now, produce it nicely, and anytime I need it, I can just save this drum rack full of all these drums by clicking this save icon right here and just pull it in anytime I want to. Now let's play something with this. You can of course use MIDI to play it, but you can also write MIDI, draw MIDI like this, and trigger the notes you want. As you see, the keyboard is now folded, meaning that we're only using notes that are actually in use by the sampler. So from C1 onwards, everything else above it doesn't have anything on it, doesn't have any samples. So only these notes have something. Once I turn the monitor on, notes above and below have nothing, even if I play them. So having this folded really helps a lot. So let's say kick drum, clap. Let's see how that sounds. Nice. Clap. We can copy that. Yep, I could loop that so we don't lose it. Wow, too loud. Too loud. So let's do that. Copy this a lot. And then, because it's too loud, nice, I like that. We can add more of those sounds that we had, like this. Well, I could copy this. So remember, we can make a selection of all the MIDI notes plus the empty space around them. And I'm going to right-click and click duplicate. And it will duplicate. Now you can see there is a shortcut for that, Control D, and on a Mac, Command D, and I strongly implore you to learn all the shortcuts and just use them as much as you can. So Control D, like that. I just get that pattern repeated. add a little bit of percussion here and there. Nice, I like that. Let's add that. Ooh, I have to save this for later. Maybe you even witnessed the track being made. Nope, I should move this one left or right, like this. No. And so on. Of course, I could produce this further. I could mingle with the volumes, the panning of all of these, move them left and right. I could use effects on each one of these samples. I could just use the one I want. Let's say this hi-hat. I could put some EQ on that. Filter it out. Do whatever you please. So using a drum machine is like losing a lot of these samplers, and that's how this actually is in a lot of other drum machines like Battery. Let me show you that one too. So let's go find Battery from Native Instruments. As you can probably notice, this is really similar to the other drum machine that I've showed you. So let's load one of the kits and see what happens. So now I have a kit loaded, meaning that I have a pre-produced kit loaded, one of the presets for this drum machine Battery. And you can see that on each one of these fields, we have a sample on it, we can manipulate it, we have envelopes for it, and some effects that, as I've told you in Ableton's version of the drum machine, we can add those as we wish. And here also we have predefined effects we can use, like filters, compressors, send effects, but nevertheless, this is the key range that will trigger this pad. And of course, now it's only C1 as a note. We could make that be from C1 to F1, and all of these notes are now going to trigger that pad. But usually we want only one of the keys on our keyboard to trigger one of the pads. There you go. So in the end, a drum machine, nothing but a collection of small samplers that can manipulate the audio, and each one of those small samplers is connected to be triggered by another MIDI command. Of course, we can manipulate those samples using volume envelopes, pitch envelopes even. Let's try it on this kick drum. See, without it. So we can manipulate the samples using pitch, using filters, using compression, maybe even as such, no lows. And so forth. We also have the sampler or time stretch, so resampling or time stretching when changing the pitch of a certain sample. That also includes the pitch envelope workings. Let's try that. So you see the speed remains constant. If I go to resampler, the speed varies according to our pitch envelope. See that? Now it's better. As you see, when making drums, this is very neat to have. As you see, when making drums, this is very good to have some control over the drums that we are playing, since, as I've told you in one of the lessons before, if we used an audio version of that, we would have to, when changing a certain sample, let's say changing a kick drum in a song, we would have to exchange it in every instance where we put it on our timeline in the project as an audio file. But if we did that using MIDI, using a drum machine, we could just exchange this kick drum right here, and our kick drum would still be playing throughout the song, but it will be a different kick drum. The convenience of exchanging, manipulating, and controlling our drums for a drum machine is unparalleled.